our shop here working on our XJ camper project. And I was going to show you a few steps we made in progress on this thing. Well, right here, if you remember, this panel here was all one complete area right there. When I had to hang it up, and it was all one panel. Well, I went ahead and trimmed it out, and I actually cut it to start with, just seeing if it fit or what. I cut it out here and got rid of that because I didn't need this old wheel well. And so, after I cut that panel out right there, I started realizing that our body line here is a lot different than this door is. And the reason why is because this panel here is actually the same mirror image as this is. So our line here was a little bit off right there, the way that Jeep designed them. It actually goes wide to a little bit narrow. So I wasn't happy with that. So what I did is I went ahead and just cut this on off, get rid of this. What I'm looking at is this, my brand new panel that I'm going to form is going to come down and meet up with this body line and come down like this and come on in. And so that way this will be a full solid area. In order to marry this to this end of it, you know, my rear hatch to my donor vehicle and all, I had to actually cut out this pillar. This pillar has an outer side and an inner frame section. Have your outer skin and that. So I actually had to cut this open. Then it actually came around this pillar. Now, this line here for an XJ vehicle is actually tapered a little bit, and I actually had a wide gap here. So, you know, making it fit best I could and all, actually I had to drop it down just a little bit. There is a little bit of a slight hump here, but once I get everything together and get my original trim back on this, it should flatten that back out a little bit. So I'm not really that concerned with it. It's either I deal with this right here, or else I change up this body line here and make it meet up to my door. As you open up the door, you can see here where I ground the original body here, my donor vehicle, to my hatch right here. I actually had to grind that right there and get that slid up on here. So, and I offset my roof cut here. There's about 3 inches of original, my donor vehicle's roof is underneath there, about 3 inches right there. So that's how I married that together, overlapped it, and then I'll wind up welding that right there. Right here, you can see, as you open it up, this is kind of what it looks like on the inside. Floorboard still cut open and all. Still thinking about how to design either a belly pan or just a straight pan across, not sure. There will be a bed across here. Your pillows will lay to this end. Your feet will go to that end because the wheel wells. Then there will be a wall right there with a TV mounted on it. On the other end of that wall, on the other side, that's where it'll wind up being the kitchen. Just like a lot of the teardrop campers, teardrops, a lot of them wind up having a rear hatch that opens up, and then you have a full kitchen over here. So right now, I'm at the point now, I just need to go ahead and finish welding this, weld this together, get all my measurements, and go see my friend at a metal shop to form my panels here. You might say, well, darn, that's going to cost extra money. I thought this was some sort of budget project. Well, it is. But the thing about it is, what I spend for brand new metal here, having it formed and everything, and put it on there, is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what labor would cost. And then it'll have a nice finished look instead of having to sit here and try the labor to sit here and fill in for that wheel well and making all this meet together. So that's kind of where we are right now at this point. So as soon as we start getting some panels made up right quick and all, I'll be giving you a cost of that. Right now, I'm estimating right now, I've got about 300 bucks in this so far. Because this cost me 100. The old donor vehicle right here that I used and all, I estimate 200 bucks on it. But I still got a whole lot of parts left over. Remember, that I can easily sell off and wind up making my money back on that. So right now I'm at $300 in this thing. So a few panels brand new, I don't think that'll break me on that. All right, here we are again at an update on the XJ camper. So today I was going to show you guys how far I got along on this. Right now, we got to the point that this panel here, we made this panel to fit in here. Now, it looks pretty complex because of the shapes and stuff like that, but it wasn't quite as bad as what you think. A lot of hours into the body work and all, so we've been working on that a little bit. And then it's meeting up real good with the door here. We even have an inset right there where the door has to swing. So remember that whenever you go to make your panel, if you're going to build any kind of vehicle or setup like this, you have to allow room for that swing of these doors. A lot of people wind up hurting themselves by not leaving that in there, and then they have to go back and redo it. So we got it welded here. We got our panel inside there to allow for that insert, will allow for that curve of the door to tuck in there. So we got that part made. Our weld seam is across here, right down through here. Then we got a weld seam on this bottom seal here, right here. Original here. Here's our fresh panel. We also got a cap here on the end we haven't made, right here. Here's the original tail light we'll wind up using. Right here, a bumper will fit here, whether it be an off-road bumper or whether it be a stock one, we're not sure at this moment. But the tail lights here, we'll probably paint in this red part, but keep the yellow, the amber, or just a turn signal type system. So right here, as we open up, you can see where right down through here is where we put the weld down through here to tie this hard panel into here. Now on this right here, we wound up using 18 gauge steel. We put my little stop in. 18 gauge steel right there for this panel. So it's a lot thicker than the original. So look, we're going to go to the other side and let me show you how we made this from that big hole we started. All right. To start with, I had to get my panel made. My panel looks kind of complex, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. All right. What I started with is I took regular masking tape and I put masking tape down the sides here and back there on my door. Took the masking tape and I had my panel cut out, and I had that masking tape marked at each joint right there. Everywhere there was a bend, that's where I had my masking tape marked. I put my masking tape on my panel. I notched it right there just so I could have a good reference. I had the front piece of masking tape and the rear piece of masking tape. I had them on my panel. Then I turn around and I run this panel through an English wheel. Now I'm not perfect with no English wheel. I struggle with that. But I got it crowned this way and I got a little crown that way. Then I put it in the brake and bent my panel the way I wanted it, okay? So over here, as you come over here, we had that way, this thing will go right there. And it will meet up right here. Now, how do you attach this to this? All right, let's go in a little detail about that. Let me slide this out of the way. First off, we had to wind up making this insert I was talking about on the other side so the door will tuck in. That insert's made basically with a flat piece of steel down through here, shaped the contour of the door, but it's tucked in just a shade. So it allows for this panel to be welded to it. Then I cut a special cut piece right there, right here, to fit right off in there. So I cut a piece, I cut my pattern, put my pattern on my metal, trimmed out my metal, then I welded that all in there. So once it's welded in there, I put it halfway, so that allows that inset so the door can swing into here. So that gave me a back area so that a support, I guess you'd call it, that it'll go there. Then it'll weld across here, right there. Then right here, it'll weld down through here. I'll clean all this up. That panel will weld here. But then you got this gap here. Well, here we go back with our piece of trim here, or 1 inch. We're gonna mold it to make this front here. Then it'll weld down through there. When we get this panel tacked in here, we can trim this off here. When we trim that cup off, get that out of the way, then that's where my little pattern here comes into place, and I will trim me off a piece of metal to finish that off right there. And that'll fit right in there, right there. Then it'll weld across here, tie in that, and it'll make all this even, just like my other side is. And so let me take off this tail light right quick, and I'll show you how the other side is. There's the inside. As you can see, the metal's welded in. I put some extra welds on the inside. Make sure that panel doesn't bow or flex. All right, here's what it looks like with the tail removed. That's where this welded again, and that tied that pattern I had cut on that, showing you on that side, made this pattern for a piece of metal right there. So that's the way it's going to tie in. I'm going to get this other side finished, and then we're going to start working on this floor in here. And we're going to cap off this floor, and then also tie this to the floor. So that'll be on our next steps. And then by that time, we'll start looking at our tongue. Now, some people may say, well, why didn't you put the tongue on it and all this? The tongue's just in the way for now. We can come back later, tie the tongue in good, throw the floorboard down, weld it on there, and we're done with that part of it there. So that'll be on the next segment. So appreciate you guys watching, and get out there and do something.